speaking about acing negotiations. One of the key mindsets of the 1000 Women Leaders program is to be able to have a maverick mindset, where you're having courageous conversations, you're acing negotiations, which is very critical as you climb the ladders in organizations. So, and maybe we start off with Padma because she's the only woman on the podcast today. From your experience, women are known to be quite good negotiators if you look at things, especially in social circles, at homes, in the way they manage, the people mindset outside of work. But what do you think probably holds women back to be great negotiators at work? And if they actually bring their true negotiating self to work, it can, change the way they work. It could change the way their teams work. It could reshape the way their organizations operate. So from your experience, what do you think makes a woman a great negotiator? At the same time, what do you think is holding women back in organizations to bring that to the table?
I think some of the things which hold us back and which work very well when you are, in a social scenario or in a home scenario is that, there is this whole narrative which is subconsciously built over the years and generations, I would say, women being the nurturer and, keeping everything together, all these sayings that, it is the woman who keeps the family together, the world together. Now these are very powerful narratives, and they're almost super woman like in their definition. But negotiation by its very nature may also lead to a situation where there may not be a win-win outcome. The outcome may be skewed in a direction which may be, I win you lose, or vice versa. So typically that is on a, on a subconscious level, that is very contraindicative to the nurturer role,
Right.
especially in a tough situation where, it's like, it's for a promotion, let's say, and there are two peers, and you have to put your case forward to negotiate that role in your favor. That whole narrative of, you being the nurturer, the man being the provider, and there is another guy. So if you it puts you in a back foot. It's so subconscious that so many times if you don't pause and think, you don't realize it. I
Right.
think that's one barrier which is there. And then,
Sure.
it sounds cliche, but aggressive and assertiveness are viewed very differently.
I think, yes, there is a subconscious that comes at the play. And definitely, in fact, the best negotiations are the ones who land in win-win situations, not the other way around, actually looking at it. But can I come to you now, Benny? What are your observations that you have had? What are some of the greatest traits that women bring when it comes to negotiations? But you have not, and what are some of the reasons that holds them back to bring those?
Right. So I represent an organization called Popular Vehicles and Services Limited, which is a group based out here. We were an IPO-bound organization. We just closed the IPO bid yesterday.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you so much. We are an organization that employs 10,500 people in 4 states today. Of course, 3 being South, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Maharashtra. And one key differentiator that I've seen is in terms of women getting into the pipeline and was bringing more and more leaders. So from the last 4.5 years that I'm here, I've improved the gender diversity in the system and make it 21% today. And today I have, even starting from the board of directors to the level of junior most, I have different women leaders who are able to influence even at the board level and senior management level and at various levels. So that's one I see great influencing the team to the way that we think, the way we manage the business. That's one. At a personal level, I have actually lost my uncle, and I've seen my aunt, who was a very silent, what you call partner, as Padma was saying, how women transforms. I've seen her, how she transformed the 4 children and the whole family, in taking them to their, different spheres of their life, helping them to, become independent. And I've seen how she influenced the whole family, how she influenced the whole society and helped them to become independent. Today, all the 4 children are doing extremely well. So I've seen a personal example how a woman or a lady in my family influences society, influences the family, help children to become independent. So that's a classic example. Coming back to the corporate life or the personal life that I am enjoying here in this organization, I've seen the contribution of women influencing in terms of different, like we think about different hats. We'll talk about Edward de Bono, like 6 hats that we think about. I think they bring color to the various discussions. I think they bring different perspective to the discussions, maybe something which were maybe unknown to us or not thought through. So these are some influences that I've seen myself, both at personal level and professional level, and which in turn helping the organization to grow better. In fact, today the board has also given me mandate to bring this organization to a 50-50 organization, meaning 50% women. That's a great thought the board has. Now, since we are listed, we are also accountable for the largest stakeholders as well. So looking at the way, and also a personal reflection, when I look at today's postgraduate or business colleges, I've seen more women students or ladies or girls who are pursuing their education, passing out, and becoming successful in various corporates. Today, I'm sure Suriji is able to get a lot of nomination because we see a lot of women, what you call entrepreneurs or women professionals looking forward for their advancement. So I've seen this is another example where I see personally how they're able to influence and negotiate the corporate world and society at large. So these are some thoughts, Suriji.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Benny. What are your, Tushar, if I can come to you, what do you think makes women great negotiators?
Obviously, we see a lot of forums, and the one which you are running as well, Suruchi, where we are pursuing numbers and percentage representation, and then you had that women's bill and passed by the parliament recently, unfortunately at 33%. But I feel the more important thing is not to pursue the numbers. I think it's about putting some kind of a performance metric around how you're really grooming them up to come up and expand the pool, right? Where the numbers can automatically get filled up, right? So I think that's what's holding a normal women employee from being good at negotiation for herself.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they are great in the marketplace and all of it. I have a women-dominated family as well. They're great. I mean, I always turn around to them for any kind of other negotiations, right? But that's more altruistic, right? I mean, they want to do it for the family and all of it. But when it comes to individualistic, I think the psyche really holds them back, is what is my personal opinion.
Sure. No, thank you. Sanjay, any other thoughts? What do you think are the greatest traits that women bring as negotiators?
Yeah, I think most of it is covered, but apart from social identities, a woman, we have a stereotype. I think there is also a personal identity that comes into play, and Padma was referring to as a mother, a nurturer. I've seen, women are really good at negotiation because I feel the empathy, the big picture thinking, and intuition also plays. They already know before getting into a negotiation what is the other party wanting to negotiate on, what they're looking for. But sometimes it's two sides of the coin, where sometimes empathy also comes in the way of a good negotiation. And I feel sometimes women employees, they feel that okay, maybe they get too attached to the feeling of the other side that they're negotiating with.
True. No, great. Thank you. I think I agree. I think while their understanding of people, their intuition, their empathy should come as only the strengths without letting them be their derailers is one of the things. Benny, you had something to add to this?
Yeah, I just want to add one point. In the table of negotiations, many times when the opposite gender, the men find it difficult to say no, or even I mean many times if there's men negotiate the same terms and versus a women, I think always the women always wins due to multiple factors. Maybe the power of influence is far better. So I think that again, maybe blessed by the God, I mean this gender blessing that they have, they're able to influence the negotiations maybe in a more effective way. Just one point to add.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. But I want to come back to you again, in your career span, I'm sure, as it moved forward, there were quite a few milestones where you had to either negotiate for yourselves or you had to negotiate for your team. And both are critical as you start climbing the ladder as well, right? The later also starts becoming very, very important. How have you prepared yourself? What are the strategies, or what are some mindful things that, you brought into effect to be good at the negotiating table?
So I think for at least for the last several years, I think that there is a certain I wouldn't call it a strategy, but there's a certain sort of like a mantra which I follow in any negotiation where I want a closure. So I call it my pure strategy, and maybe the people in my team can talk about it. So I always so P is I always try to maintain positivity, because in any negotiation, the moment you lose the positivity, then the chances of the subject getting lost is very, very high. So
Yeah.
maintain the positivity. I mean, and as women, like Sanjay mentioned, emotions are our biggest enemy, I would say, in such situations. And
Yeah.
negative emotions have a tendency to be stronger.
Yeah.
So for me, positivity is very important. But then going by the acronym PURE, for me, understanding what is the outcome that you actually want. So
Yeah.
understanding the outcome, because you have to steer the conversation, you have to steer the negotiation. So be positive, but be very clear of what outcome do you want, so that the steering doesn't get. I am that way is very sure that I want it to converge and not diverge into multiple
Yeah.
things. The third is everybody said, as women, we are great at the rapport part. So
Mm.
during the negotiation, I always try and keep track that, am I losing out the rapport? Is the interest getting lost, or is something else becoming a disturbance, and therefore the outcome is getting disturbed? And
Yeah.
last is, in any meeting, in any discussion, for me, after the rapport, the E, which is ensure that a closure happens.
Hmm.
I don't like leaving things open ended without a certain very solid reason. So for me, this is my very pure strategy. Be positive, understand the outcome that you want. Don't lose rapport at any point during the meeting. Don't get distracted,
Correct.
and end with a closure.
Right.
So that's what I uh,
Absolutely. No,
have
I think
made for myself.
No, I think that's a good framework to kind of follow, and I think I completely agree, especially on the positivity and the rapport part of it, because often in negotiations, it depends on how the conversation goes, and it's totally sometimes 50% of it is in your control, to not make it look like ugly, because at the end of the day, we all have to come back to the same workplace and to work with the same
Absolutely.
team, and none of this is always. A lot of times, especially if you're negotiating for your function or for your team, it's for the larger good. It's not really, very person specific. So thank you for adding that. Tushar, your thoughts, any strategies that you have implemented and have worked for you to be a good negotiator? And I'll just add a caveat to this. Most negotiations are series of conversations. They don't really finish, on one half an hour, 45-minute meeting. So what have been your strategies so far?
I think for the longest time I've been with talent acquisition as a function, so negotiation is part of everyday
Yeah.
life, right? I can say the success mantra is the courage to leave an offer on the table, right?
Hmm.
The day you show desire, right? I think that desire, whether you show it or not, if you kind of anchor your entire conversation around desire,
Yeah.
rather than, as you said, anchoring around what you really need out of that deal, right?
Yeah.
That's where I think you lose out on some of the best deals, right? I mean, even while talking to, say, candidates, or if I'm a candidate talking to a probable employer, right?
Yeah.
I should have the courage to say no. I don't agree with that offer, right? Even if it's the best brand in the world, right? Let's take the example of Google for that matter,
Yeah.
right? Because what happens is that stays with you even after that, right? Boss, I got a raw deal. Just I had to sacrifice for
Yeah.
this offer or something that, and that is something which is the bane of any negotiation. So as long as you're very clear on what is your anchor, right? And you have the courage to say no, right?
Yeah.
courage to move away from a deal, just get up that table,
Yeah.
I'm telling you 99%, and you can hold me to quote on this, 99%, the moment you show that courage, the deal will come to you. You don't
Correct.
have to pursue it, right? I
Absolutely.
think that's been the mantra largely, either ways.
Yeah.
Either ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. I think especially the negotiation deals that are thought through from a win-win point of view still pushes you sometimes to walk away, regardless of you thinking. And in that course of time, you often lose out. Let's say there's a candidate on the other end in your context. Whatever, even if you lose out on that candidate coming on board, I think it's for the best. Because
Yeah.
if you thought through from a win-win point of view, there is a certain limit that you have drawn around. And you should be willing to kind of, walk away at that point of time. So,
I'll just take
Yeah,
just
go
about
ahead.
10, 20 seconds more, because I think most of us in HR have undergone that pain in 2021, that great resignation wave that we saw,
Yeah,
right? Each one of us possibly was holding or was capable of holding more than 4 or 5 offers, right? I think if at all the organizations at that point in time would have shown a little bit more courage, right? And I say it with a pinch of salt, right? We wouldn't see the bloodbath that we are seeing, at least on the IT side of it today, right? Because we padded up, we threw whatever money it was, it really crushed the bottom line, right? I think it just needed courage.
Yeah.
That's what I would really hold on to.
Absolutely, absolutely. Always doing what is right, and to a certain point, then kind of, sometimes you have to accept to let go, and it often works out the better way. Thank you, thank you. Can I come to you, Sanjay? Your thoughts. What are some of the strategies you've learned in your career to be good at negotiation?
Yeah, I think since we're talking about women, I mean, my ex-CEO, I'll give her example. I think one of the things that I've learned from her, whenever I used to go for negotiation, I used to kind of put some points and I say, okay, logically it should work, and go for the meeting. She taught me the magic of preparing. So
Yes.
whenever I went to her, she'll say, okay, have you looked at this? Have you prepared this way? So if you have going to have a 15 minutes conversation on the negotiation table, spend 1 or 2 hours, couple of weeks thinking about it. So that has really helped, one. And the second one that I picked up really was, it was all about I, me, myself. And she told me, okay, have you spoken to a couple of people, the peer group, stakeholder, your teams, to get their inputs, which can really help you in,
Building your
making
case.
the negotiation much richer. And I see complete merit in that. So these two things, I mean, she kind of moved on within the organization to a different country. But these two, strategies have really worked for me. I mean,
Yeah. Often it's many days and hours of preparation before you get into, probably a couple of series of conversations, and to be able to think through what the other side of the table is going to bring is actually the only way for you to not just come up with good defenses, I feel, but to be able to create a negotiation which keeps the other side in your mind, and to be able to create that win-win eventually, which can reduce the amount of time it actually takes to close a negotiation. So completely agree with her on the prepping part of it, and having perspectives of different people actually helps you to be better prepared. Instead of just being relying on your own wisdom. Benny, your thoughts very quickly. What are some of the strategies that you have picked up?
Yeah, so 2 examples. When I worked with the previous company where I had a woman CHRO, when we had long-term settlements with the unions, I'm talking about environment in Kerala, where we had 3 active unions. When we analyzed, although she was not in the negotiation table negotiating with them, but the way we deep dive into the what I call various options. So I've seen a lot of thinking that I reflected through women leader, like beyond the various options that we thought through. She was able to influence us to think further and look at further options. So we were able to reflect on various things. So one quality that I've seen is looking at options. Similarly, I've seen successful procurement managers, women procurement managers, who have been successful in, be it on the raw material or packing material, whatever. I've seen, unlike the men, they were able to look at larger options, or they were able to analyze maybe more sharper. I mean, these two were the 2 examples that I've seen, both from the CHRO and also from a procurement manager. So in a nutshell, more thinking, deep diving, analyzing further, and looking at options. So these are some thoughts further.
Absolutely. I think deep diving, analyzing, and always having more options to play with, I think works out well. Great. Thank you. Now I'm going to switch gears here. I spoke about the 1,000 Women Leaders movement aims women at all three levels, junior, mid, and senior. And please take a moment to think if that's what you would like to do. If you had to give each of these audiences 2 tips to build their negotiation skills, and these tips are going to be very different, right? If you're talking to a 2 to 10 year women, 2 to 10 year experienced woman professional versus someone who is in her mid careers versus someone who's has spent many years in their careers, in their organizations, and are looking for higher opportunities. Padma, your quick 2 tips for each of these segments. What would those be?
I think I'll start from the senior ones. It's a little more easy right now for me.
Relatable.
I think at the senior levels, yeah, at the senior levels, I think one of the most important things is the degree of self-assurance and the confidence that you bring to the table, because now the level at which you are playing at, people are banking on you. So
Yeah.
in very masculine terms, they want to also test how strong are your shoulders. So
Yeah.
at senior levels, I think it's very important to bring that air of assurance and confidence to the table,
Yeah.
so that you can be given a strategically a big job.
Yeah.
Um, the key is not to just look strong, but to also, I'm assuming when you're senior, you also build it and bring it. At the mid levels, I think in negotiations, what works really well is your ability to create and build collaborations. So I think if I were at the mid level, for me, peer and collaboration and a collaborative approach to the negotiation table will get me much more support,
Sure.
because then I am looked upon at that stage of my career. I'm a team builder, team creator.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be a good piece of advice. So maybe do your homework, get certain dipsticks, find out how the reactions could be to a certain point before you actually come on to the negotiation table. At the junior levels, I think in order to negotiate, a lot of hard work and preparation. It's actually just the reverse of what you would do at the senior levels. Show your potential.
Hmm.
Sometimes you may not know the subject, but then can you at least bring about a parallel um, strength to the table, which convinces them to bet on you?
Right.
Because at the very senior and the very junior level, it's all about the readiness of the people to bet on you.
Yeah.
So a lot of drive. You have to be the most passionate person in the room if you're coming for the negotiation, because sometimes when you're at the junior level, that sheer spirit and that mojo that drives you can get you the decision.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's one of the
That's
first things that get noticed because your mindset is still getting built, your careers are, your
yeah, it's like
experience is still
can
getting
do.
built.
So,
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Someone that you could just take a bet on. Your thoughts, Tushar, on this one. What tips would you give at the 3 levels?
Um, I would say one common factor across all the levels is you should know your worth, right? And how do you really do that is possibly take as much as feedback, do as much as research uh, as possible, to really anchor. You should believe that you are worth it, right?
Right.
That's the first step of being confident while walking into any negotiation. That's
Yeah.
the most crucial thing as per me, right? And possibly the second one also, which possibly cuts across all the 3 segments which you are kind of talking about is, and this is something to give the due credit, which I learned in a negotiation course at ISB, was whatever happens, right? You have to maintain that relationship, right?
Hmm.
At any point in time for any negotiation, make sure that you build a relationship, whether you crack the deal or not, right? I
Yeah.
think these 2, I would hold it as a holy grail.
Absolutely. I think putting relationships over and above the deals. Uh, totally agree with you on that. Sanjay, your 2 tips for the 3 audiences.
Yeah. For junior, I would say data, trends, and a lot of preparation and
Yeah.
options. For middle, I'll say the big picture thinking, because sometimes you don't know what the top management is wanting to do through this negotiation. So get that picture. And I think for senior level, I would say taking a stand, and as Tushar was saying, walking away from when you feel this is not making sense, walk away from the deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think at that level, you can definitely walk away.
Yeah.
So agree with you. Benny, your 2 tips for the 3 audiences.
Right. So the first team, the Rise Like Women, the junior most, I would say more of planning and organizing. At that level, probably more planning and more organizing will be able to help them to lead better. And for the mid-career, I would say in terms of more analytical skills, that would make them more better negotiators on the table. And for the women who are the senior most level, I would say the executive presence or the networking, because at that level we would expect the executive presence or networking. That's going to be the most critical thing. So these are 3 different inputs. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all 3 of you for bringing in diverse perspectives about negotiation. And, often people don't talk about negotiations just from a gender context point of view, but day in, day out, we are negotiating with, if not with the word, most likely or not, which becomes like a pitfall for women is they negotiate with themselves before, they're put out to negotiate for what they want in front of others. One of the key things that I learned from my ex board member, Rajan Mehra, used to be this, stop, not just me, just as a co-founding team, he would always tell us this, don't negotiate with yourselves, get to the negotiation, don't lose that negotiation battle before you get to that battles.